Welcome back to I'm Still Here. I'm Larry.
And I'm Heather. In 1998, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at the age of 26. It changed everything for us, but I'm still here.
You are?
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
Woo! Okay. I thought maybe we'd go back before 1998 today and talk a little bit.
Prequel.
The prequel, exactly. We've been talking about some stuff that I feel like is a little bit heavier, so I thought maybe today we'd have a little bit more fun and talk about how we met and just maybe our relationship and how cancer is a part of that and everything. So, how'd we meet?
We met at a summer camp, which wasn't quite summer yet. It was still spring.
Yeah.
And you were working there. That was your summer job from college.
Yep.
And I was also in college, but I was at a different one. And my sister and brother-in-law took their classes to this.
They're both teachers.
Yeah, they were both teachers, and they took their classes to this. I don't know, like they'd spend a few days.
Yeah,
there.
we called it outdoor education.
Okay.
Huh.
And my sister was pregnant.
No.
Huh? No.
Nick was already...
yeah, he was already born. Oh, that's right. So she couldn't come. So I went kind of in her place, because I just screwed around the whole time. But yeah, I met you.
Yeah. So I think we actually truly met at the rock climbing wall. So
yeah, I remember that.
And
I was bored. She was working.
Yeah. I mean, don't worry about those kids falling off the wall if I'm not paying attention. Yeah. So you didn't have you were technically supposed to chaperone these kids, right? But they were like 5th and 6th graders, so it's not like they needed their hand held all the time.
No, and I was not like in a cabin or anything. I didn't have very much responsibility. I had no responsibility whatsoever, which is perfect for me. That's why I try to place myself in any situation. Is be the person with no responsibility. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we just met there. And then I don't know who invited. I think you guys wanted to play golf. You and your friend, Katie, wanted to play golf. And we went...
Well... first, we hung out a little bit while we were there. We went canoeing one time, and we did some different things like that. And but then I feel like you just sort of left.
Gotta go. Moving on.
I don't think you had a cell phone.
Oh, heck no! I didn't get a cell phone. What year was this?
1993.
Yeah, I certainly didn't have a cell phone until we were married. So there's your answer.
Oh my gosh, we did our whole dating career with you.
Letters. Remember letters? Yes.
Phone. So yeah, you took off. Katie and I decided to track you down, I think. And then we ended up golfing, which was really eventful. You want to tell them?
One swing will haunt me the rest of my life. One swing. I could have shot 4 under. But the first tee, the first drive, there was a little pressure on me. Both of them were just staring at me. And the ball, I think, went about a foot.
I think it went more like 10. It kind of dribbled.
Whatever. And I put it back on there. Then what happened?
You probably hit a
crushed it.
Shot.
Absolutely crushed it.
In our defense, I will say, I think that both Katie and I were like, oh, great, maybe we can play with this guy.
That one shot.
Terrible golfers. I can't speak for Katie anymore, but I'm not a great golfer. So anyway.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so we just started from there, I think, hanging out really quickly. We both, I don't think... I can't speak for you. Neither of us were really looking for a relationship, right?
Well, why?
Because we were both sort of in them.
You were in a relationship.
You were too.
No.
Yes.
No.
Well, I won't.
Anyway.
So, what do you think made us different? What do you think made our relationship different from the ones we've been in and
Oh, that's probably a long list. But I knew it was different.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't know what that's hard to put like words to that for me.
Yeah.
I knew it was different from the beginning, and I was a little older, so I'd already been in the Marine Corps. I'd been in college for a year or two. Yeah. I was getting to that age where you do start thinking about, not just a girlfriend or that kind of thing. And yeah, I definitely was like, this is different.
Yeah. I remember my dad, who, knowing my dad, it always felt like he was around and he wasn't paying attention, but he would always surprise me with things he would say. And I remember my dad saying that you were the first guy that I didn't really have to take care of. Like, you could take care of yourself. And he liked that. He liked that it looked more like a partnership from the get-go. And
yeah, that's probably where you challenged me for sure. And maybe some of my other relationships, that wasn't the case for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was almost a test, and when you go out, or not a test, I don't know. It would test me to try to be on my toes, kind of, and I enjoyed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So we started dating.
Yep.
Got engaged. Got married a year. So we were engaged for a year and married
dated for a year, engaged for a year.
Yep.
And then married for more than a year.
More than a couple. One more. Right. And then just started, I feel like we just kind of had this, hey, whatever, we'll figure out life together, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't matter. As long as we were together, we were happy to figure out what would come next. And we both were graduating college, and I was working, actually, by the time we got married, and you were getting ready to student teach. So did all that, and then I don't know, it had been over a year that we'd been married, but we were just like, we went out with friends, I remember, and they told us that they were pregnant, and we were like, like,
should we do that?
I'm
pretty sure this was you, because yeah, that's how most of the things in our relationship work, is you kind of bring it up or whatever, and I go, oh, that's cool. Or not. Or,
right.
I definitely voice some of those too. But yeah, you're...
So we decided that we would try to get pregnant, and or that we just I would stop doing birth control is basically what we decided.
And we were good at it.
And we got pregnant right
Fast.
away. Right
Yes.
away.
Yeah.
And then, so we found out, we were pregnant, and the due date was October 22nd, which you're a football coach. Mm-hmm. We both work in the schools, or we did at the time.
It was poor planning.
It was really terrible planning.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was also perfect planning, I think, looking back.
Yep.
So, Sydney was born. We just started living our lives, right?
It was awesome.
It was awesome.
We were broke, but
yeah,
well, just enough to buy a small house.
Yeah,
that was really cheap back in the day.
Yeah.
Most cars are more expensive than our first house, which I think a lot of people say that when they get older. But we had just enough money to get by.
Yeah.
And it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right after Sydney's first birthday was when we found out about the cancer. So she was, we celebrated her first birthday in the football stands. I always like to tell people.
Yeah.
And then that was in October, and then in December we got the news that it was,
which, as you say, changed everything.
It did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I just feel like cancer became a part of us, like a part of our marriage, a part of everything that we did.
But evidently not a part of our kids.
I know.
Because we've had them both on our podcast, and both of them were like, I was clueless. I had no idea.
Well, not I was clueless. I knew about it, but it didn't affect me. Like, it didn't.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
So initially, I think, when we found out, like, I just remember obviously being so scared and, like, just so scared. And talking to you about that. And I think we were both scared for our own reasons and scared, the unknown is so hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what could be. How do you think that affected us?
Well, I have no idea. Neither do you. Because we don't know the other,
Right.
You likely would have moved on a long time ago. For me, if it wasn't for the cancer. So I guess that's good for me. That you stuck around. I don't know, because this is our reality, right? This is we've lived with this in our marriage for way longer than we
lived without.
Didn't, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this has been our norm, our yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's good in a way. The people who are married for 18 years or something like that, and then they get this, there is a big difference. Whereas this was, I've never really thought about this before. I'm thinking as I'm talking. But
so we didn't really have a norm established yet, or expectations in the same way, you're saying?
maybe it wasn't, yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. We've talked a little bit about you being a caregiver, but I think that was an initial, obviously a big change. I mean, we've always had a partnership, but it was never, and of course we would do things for each other, but with cancer, it's different. It ups
different gear, for sure, yeah.
Ups the level of caregiving, right? And what that looks like. And it changes.
And the seriousness of it.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then I think it also it changes the balance of who, I don't want to say who gets to make the calls, but sort of who gets to make the calls in that, right? So, one thing that I've heard over the years from different people that can be a struggle is like, one person making a lot of changes and the other person going, stop it, I don't want to make any changes, right? Yeah. And I think
let me stop that. I think, and at least this was my perception, that we didn't make a lot of changes. I think we really, really tried for normalcy, tried for not making huge things. We, even though it might have been, cancer was there and we had an appointment coming up or whatever, but we still tried to go to Florida for Christmas and somewhat forget about it and to do that kind of stuff. We did a lot of that, and from what our kids say, it wasn't a big part of their lives, and so we maybe unintentionally did try to put it aside in certain things and try to have normal things going on.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, I would say that's true, but there was also so many little changes. There were so many things that I was doing differently. There were so many, from food to, employment to, and I really, that's one of the things that I look back on and go, like, I'm so appreciative of the fact that you didn't sweat the small stuff in that respect, right? Like, it didn't really matter. There wasn't a lot of, I guess I just feel like I was able to do what I needed to do to take care of myself. And you were like, sometimes like, yeah, I'll do that with you. And sometimes like, yeah, no, I'll support you in doing that.
Have fun.
Have fun. But just really kind of, being a part of that. And then we've talked about this a little bit too, but let's just talk about like, so we're still, we're a married couple, right? Mm-hmm. And part of marriage is, the day-to-day stuff, but part of it is also kind of the love, the desire, all of that kind of, component. And
yeah, I think I don't know that I don't know because I don't really know the opposite,
right.
you know, but I know I truly fell in love with you, not your body. And I'm not saying that in a weird way or whatever, but
Right.
but it is true. I fell in love with you, and so the changes that your body had or whatever were not a big deal to me. I know they were big, and I'm not saying that to just
no, I appreciate hearing that.
But
I mean,
they just weren't. I fell in love with you,
yeah,
and I'm still in love with you, and it has nothing. The body. That's not the part I fell in love with.
Yeah.
So. And that continues today.
But I guess on the flip side of that, but it's still something you desire.
Oh yeah.
Which which is
for sure.
So, just makes me feel so good that and I think again that can be something that people really get into their heads about in terms of it's not the same and therefore I'm not attracted to a person or they're not attracted to me. Right? There's so many.
I don't know.
It's just not something you struggled with.
I think I'm a kind of person that a few things make me really happy, and everything else I don't care. It's just and that's the way I coached, and that's the way it's all fluff. And there's a few things that are requirements or needs or that I have that everybody has their own little things, but I just think I have fewer of them, and if those minimums are there, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I can't name them, I can't list them right now, but I do feel anxiety maybe when certain things aren't, but that's just not my life right now, and hasn't been for. I can't pinpoint certain things, but I feel like if those, and that's maybe this is the teacher in me, and teachers hate change and all of this kind of thing. It's just, it is true. Most teachers. And, if I have if I have my minimums met in my workplace, in my school and stuff, and my kids are there and they're on time and they want to learn, and I am happy. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I just think, I don't know, I hit the lottery with that in terms of you being able to adjust, but you did adjust to a lot of change. It's funny, you hate change, but you adjusted to a lot of different things over time, like in terms of...
For sure. Change is often forced on me.
Yeah.
I don't usually choose it, although I did, 4 years ago, I chose a big change and retiring from being a football coach and moving into a different officiating, and that was a huge change for me, and there was high anxiety about that decision, and then going forward, and it turns out it was a great decision for me and my stress level and my just being a better human, I think. But that was hard. Other change that I have is usually forced on me, and I may complain about it a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think has helped our marriage in the last 5 years or so? What do you think has helped our marriage in the last even 10 years? I feel like we've been more intentional about our marriage.
Communication. 100% communication.
Okay.
100%. We did not communicate at all. Probably in our first, I don't know how many years of marriage, 10, 15. At all. About, sex, about, desire, about what makes you happy, what makes me happy.
Yeah.
All of those things that I've learned now that you really should do, you know, because there are a lot of things we put up with maybe that don't make us feel good, that don't do, those kind of things that you don't want to maybe offend the other person or rock the boat or these kind of things. And we've just learned.
Or there's also a lot of that, just like, how does he not know that that's what I like?
Yeah.
Right?
Dudes are clueless. Ladies, they don't know anything. I know. I still am clueless. I'm
No,
not
but
gonna pretend
even and we've done some things. We've talked about, I think, the coffee. Like you making me coffee, because I'm just kind of, when you look at love languages, I'm an acts of service kind of person. So the fact that you do that for me, it just starts my day off on a he loves me kind of foot versus.
And I like doing acts of service too. I mean that pleases me. On the other end of that, to do that and see you happy that so it's not just you, it makes me happy too in that sense.
Well, I think it's one of those things that I just started listening to this podcast, Brene Brown's recent podcast with, I think they're called the Gottmans, but there's a book that's called The Love Prescription, but they're talking a little bit about like sometimes we give invitations sort of, or we put something out there and people, your partner either kind of ignores it, turns towards it, or gets mad at it. Like kind of there's all these different ways to like look at those things. And I think part of it too is like now that we're not in it with our kids and football and all of this stuff, we have more time to look at each other and say, oh, what does make you happy, and how can I, fulfill this? And ultimately, also, I think there was a big thing for me as our kids were growing, and maybe just because I spent so much time with parents of like varsity athletes who literally were like, their kids were their everything, their be all end all, these Friday night games and all of that kind of stuff they live for them. And I understand that, and I think I love the participation, but I also was like, I would see them kind of come back and be like in mourning that they didn't have that anymore. And I think sometimes those were, for some people, I think those were the focus only, and their marriages, you know what I mean? Like, definitely,
really there's a lot of examples of the kids were the glue.
Yeah. There's a lot of...
Yeah, we don't even like our kids, so it's actually a non-factor.
Oh,
hopefully they don't listen to this.
There's no chance they're listening to this. So, again, I think they do their thing, we do ours. But I think there was a certain amount of, like, I love my kids dearly, but my partnership is with you. My marriage is with you, and I mean, we've been through so much together, right? You're really the only person who's really been through this in the same way.
Which we have a new challenge now because Heather's on the road every week, and so we are apart during the week, and that's a new challenge for us. It's a new thing, and I think we're doing pretty good with it. But that, again, that's another curveball, and how do you handle that, and how do you make it better, or how do you know what's going right, what's going wrong. These are things that, if you don't discuss, you just assume everything, and then, those things can, I think, snowball on couples.
For sure, absolutely. There has to be check-ins along the way. And would you like to talk about Ivy?
Oh my gosh, this dog.
Ivy's going to try to read a book.
Stop.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with... I think maybe part of what we've learned is that having hard discussions, or even maybe they're not even hard for us, but maybe talking about things as they come up is the better way to go.
Uncomfortable conversations,
exactly.
Because we are not the people who would normally bring up those uncomfortable...
I agree.
Neither of us are just like, oh no, let's talk about it. That is not our
us.
norm.
No.
But, I think we found ways to do that.
On the other side of that, I will say, I think there's also some merit to just not blowing up about things. I came from a much more explosive kind of, I think, models. My parents sometimes they would... But I think I've learned so much about...
And me the opposite.
And you the opposite. Your
so
parents never talked about anything.
Both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I honestly don't know what
maybe
they talked about.
But not in front
of the kids. They
you
didn't do it in
guys.
front of the kids. Yeah.
Right. So, I think there is that little bit
We're trying to be a happy medium. Let's just say that.
Right.
Who knows what perfect is?
Well, perfect is different for
Yeah.
everybody, right? Perfect is what works for you, right?
For sure.
So I think one of the things I was thinking about is that like cancer is a part of our marriage. Like it just is a part of our marriage, but we try not to make it. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. Some days it's an excuse, but for the most part, it's not the.
And that is because of where you're at with cancer right now.
Right.
That's what we're speaking on right now. Is
right.
Scans are good. The medicine is good. The checkups are good.
Right.
That can change. And
for sure.
We know this in a boom.
In an instant. Yeah.
And we would pivot.
Right.
We would do that. And
yeah.
But that's. I know some people might be listening going, how can you even say that? You're in the midst of the tornado, and I get that. That's just not us right now.
Right. No, I mean, that's a great point to bring up. I just... when you're in it, when you're in treatment, when you're feeling like crap. I mean, even just yesterday I went into that float pod, right? And it made me feel like absolute crap. Like it threw me off for the rest of the day. I had a headache. I had all these things. And it actually kind of reminded me of cancer in that, like, it can change so quickly, right? Like it just, there goes your day. And for me, fortunately, it's just a day with this kind of thing. And sometimes that's what it would be like, even with my medicine. It took me a long time to realize that like Zometa, which just seemed like a quick thing, would make me feel like crap for the rest of the day. And I would be like, oh, but it wasn't enough. It was just enough to make you like want to sit on the couch. I don't know. It took me a long time to figure that out. But anyway, just like there is some recognition that your health, of course, is the first driver to how everything's going to go,
Absolutely.
right?
It trumps everything.
It does.
No matter what you want, and I get it. And yeah, right now we're blessed.
Yeah, but also the recognition of that in a marriage, like if a partner's health is not great, then everything else does have to take a back seat to that.
Has to.
Yeah. We can't just expect people to function through feeling crappy or whatever. And just, I think it takes a lot of grace and empathy to recognize that.
Yeah.
But, I feel like we're still learning. I hope so. I hope so too.
I hope you don't just stop and want to not improve or those kind of things. And we've had those cycles in our marriage, and where we just kind of put it on autopilot or whatever.
Yeah.
But I certainly enjoy it more when there is a new challenge or something that we need to consider. How can we make this better? That's where I'm probably the happiest, to be honest. And cruising is not.
But cruising in the summer when we're not just...
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just the marriage and everything.
No, I think for me it all comes down to like connection, right? How connected I feel to you, and
100%.
And being able to connect is kind of change. It always changes in certain, it's learning the best ways to connect for the circumstances that we're in, and.
Well, just like this podcast helps us. I mean, just be able to talk through things that we wouldn't normally sit in the living room and say, let's talk about our story. And it brings things up and you think about it. And I think that's a healthy thing and it's good for us. And,
yeah. I know. Ivy and Ellie don't want to hear about the story.
No, couldn't care less.
No. So I appreciate that you walked this road with me and in a way that doesn't make me feel like I'm less than. It makes I feel very much a partner in all of this,
Same.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So
luckily you are
still here.
Hit it, Ty.